Rahul studies in class 6th. In the summer vacations, his class had got an assignment in which each student had to bring a part of any plant and a picture of an animal from the place they had visited in their holidays. After the summer vacations, when they went to school, all students were surprised to find that all of them had different sets. The student who had gone to Rajasthan had pictures of camels and a bulb of cactus which he saw in a desert. The one who had gone to Manali to see the mountains had brought back pine cones and photos of yak. One of the students had gone to Kanyakumari and brought back a palm leaf and pictures of turtle. They all described their experiences of seeing new type of plants and different animals. They also discussed with each other the different things they saw. All the living beings, plants and animals are called organisms. The body features of all organisms are suited to the place where they live. A camel lives in a desert where water is scarce, therefore its body is suited to such conditions. It has a hump in which it can store food and water so that it can survive for many days without water. It has long legs to keep its body away from the heat of the desert sand. A camel has dry skin which does not sweat and therefore does not lose water. Its dung is also dry. It has padded hoofs which help it to walk on sand. All these features help a camel to survive in the desert. A yak has short legs. Its body is covered with long thick hair to protect it from extreme cold of the Himalayan mountains. Its body has a lot of fat to survive in the winters. A turtle has a soft body which can hide inside its exoskeleton. It can live both on land and water. It has a tail which helps it to swim. The presence of specific features or certain habits of an organism which help it to survive in its surroundings are called adaptation. In addition to physical features, adaptation can be in the form of habits also. A fish has a streamlined body which helps it to cut through water and move forward. It has fins which make it change its direction. It has gills which help it to absorb the dissolved oxygen in water. Do you think a fish can live on land or a camel can live in water? Why? All organisms need a place to live where they can get plenty of food, shelter, and protection from enemies and adverse conditions. The area or surroundings in which an organism lives is called its habitat. Components of a habitat. A habitat has two components, biotic and abiotic. Biotic components. These are all the living organisms, plants and animals present in a habitat. As we have already discussed in our previous chapter that all plants and animals need food to grow and survive. We are dependent on plants and other animals for our food. On the basis of food habits, living organisms can be divided into 4 categories. Producers. Green plants which prepare their own food by the process of photosynthesis are called producers. Can you name some examples of producers? Consumers. All non-green plants and animals are called consumers as they depend on the food prepared by plants. They are of 3 types. 1. Herbivores. The animals which feed only on plants. They are also called primary consumers. For example, elephant, deer, goat, cow, etc. 2. Carnivores. those animals which feed on other animals, for example, lion, tiger, shark, etc. 3. Omnivores. These feed on both plants as well as animals, for example, cats, crows, men, etc. Scavengers. Some animals feed on dead animals, for example, vultures, dogs, hyena, etc. Decomposers. The microorganisms which feed on the dead bodies of plants and animals and decompose them into simple substances are called decomposers. For example, bacteria and fungi are decomposers. On the other hand, non-living things do not need any food. Their energy comes from other sources. When the energy flow is stopped, they stop working. Abiotic components. The non-living components of a habitat like the rocks, soil, air, water, sunlight and temperature, etc. are called abiotic components of that habitat. These are very important for the growth of an organism. Soil. Soil is one of the essential components required for growth of plants. It provides nutrients to plants like minerals and water. Air. Air is a mixture of gases and it is present everywhere in the surroundings. Plants release oxygen in the air during the process of photosynthesis, and all living beings are dependent on oxygen to respire. It also serves as the medium of pollination in plants. Light. Light is very important for growth. Plants need sunlight to prepare their food. Light helps animals to see and move around. There are many plants whose flowers open in sunlight and close at sunset. Water. We already know that water is essential for life. The quantity of water available also affects the features of the plants and animals of a particular habitat. The desert plants have adapted themselves to survive in very less water, whereas the plants growing near rivers or streams require a large amount of water. Temperature. All living organisms can survive only within a specific temperature range. We also can live only within specific temperatures. In extreme winter or extreme summer, we feel quite uncomfortable. If we go to a very cold place, we wear lots of woolen clothes to keep us warm. Have you ever seen a penguin wearing a sweater? Can you give the reason for the same? Fire. Fire is also an abiotic factor. Although it is not an essential component for growth, its presence can destroy the habitat of many plants and animals. Forest fires spread very rapidly and are very difficult to control. However, they also cause the growth of entirely different plants and animals of an area on the affected land. Types of habitat. Habitats can be generally of two types: aquatic and terrestrial. Aquatic habitat. Aqua means water. The habitats which are in or around water are called aquatic habitats. These can be further divided into saline and freshwater habitats. Oceans, seas, certain lakes are saline habitats. Rivers, ponds, swamps, lakes, etc. are examples of freshwater habitats. Terrestrial habitat. Terra means land. All the habitats present on land are called terrestrial habitats. Forest, deserts, grasslands, mountains, coastal areas are examples of terrestrial habitats. Over a long period of time, say thousands of years, the environs of a place change. Those animals which adapt to the changes survive. Others die or are wiped out. This adaptation also leads to some changes in their body structures and habits. This is the reason for the presence of such a large number of plants and animals on the earth. Features of different habitats. Some aquatic habitats. Aquatic plants and animals are the ones which live in water. Fishes live inside water but generally move in its upper layers. They have streamlined bodies. Octopus lives in the depths of oceans and doesn't move much. Its body is not streamlined. An octopus has 8 arms and has the ability to regrow its arms if any of the arms is cut. Aquatic plants are quite different from terrestrial ones. Aquatic plants can be generally divided into 3 types. Floating. These do not have well-developed roots and float with the current of water. Their flowers and leaves remain above water. For example, duckweed. Fixed. The flowers and leaves of these plants float on water, but their stems remain fixed to a place. The roots are poorly developed. For example, lotus, water lily. The stem of lotus is very long, thin, and has air canals in it. The leaves are big and round. The petals and leaves have a waxy coating on them to prevent them from rotting. Submerged. Some plants like Hydrilla, Vallisneria remain submerged inside the water. Some terrestrial habitats. Deserts. The areas which receive very less rainfall and therefore have very less vegetation are called deserts. The soil is mostly sandy. Water bodies are few and far from each other. Deserts are very hot during the day but cold during the night. The plants present in deserts have adapted themselves to conserve water. This can be seen by studying the modifications in a cactus plant. The stem of the cactus plant is fleshy and swollen to retain water. It is green as it prepares food by photosynthesis. Leaves have turned into spines to minimize the water loss by transpiration. The roots go deep down under the soil in search of water. The stem also has a waxy coating on it to prevent water loss. Mountains. Mountain areas are generally cold with very high mountains having ice caps on them. The organisms living there have adapted themselves to the very cold climate present there. The trees are cone-shaped with needle, like leaves. How is this adaptation helpful to them? The leaves are also of very dark green color to capture more sunlight for making food as hilly areas receive very less sunlight. The animals there are also adapted to living in the snow. A polar bear has white fur to merge with its surroundings. The fur is also very thick to protect its body from the cold. The fur even covers its feet, which are thickly padded to walk on snow. The body has a thick layer of fat which keeps it warm and also provides energy during the winter months when there is less food for it. A mountain goat can move very quickly on mountain slopes without falling down. This is because it has very strong hooves. A snow leopard is white and has long hair to protect it from snow. An interesting phenomenon is observed in the case of polar fox. Grasslands. The land areas dominated by grasses with a few trees or shrubs are called grasslands. Since the color of the surrounding is light brown, generally animals have light brown color. The trees have very long, deep roots to hold them tightly to the soil. The tree trunk is long so that the leaves are at a height to prevent them from being eaten by the animals. The branches are flexible to prevent them from breaking when strong winds blow. Lion, tiger, elephant, giraffe, deer, zebra, etc. are the animals found in grasslands. The animals which feed only on plants are called herbivores. For example, deer and giraffe. The animals which eat other smaller animals are called carnivores. For example, lion and tiger, etc. The carnivores dominate the jungle and are always on the lookout for small or weak animals whom they can kill for food. The animal which hunts other animals for food is called the predator, and the animals which are hunted by predators are called the prey. The features of both the predator and the prey are suited to their needs. A lion is a predator. Therefore, its hooves are padded so that it can silently attack an animal from behind. Its big claws are hidden inside its toes but come out when it attacks. Its eyes are in front of its head to see its prey clearly from very far. Its teeth are big and pointed to tear into the flesh of its prey. On the other hand, a deer has long but strong legs so that it can run fast. Its eyes are on the sides of its head to see in all directions and spot its enemies from all sides. Its ears are long and pointed to hear even the lightest sound. At even the hint of a trouble, it runs away very fast to escape danger. Living beings and their characteristics. Our surroundings consist of many things. Some of them are living, some are non-living. At times, a characteristic shown by a living being may also be shown by a non-living thing. For example, living things show movement, but cars, buses also move from one place to another. Then how do we differentiate between living and non-living things? We say a particular thing is a living being if it shows all the following characteristics. Living things need food. All organisms need food to get energy. Being producers, plants make their own food through photosynthesis. Animals are dependent on plants or other animals for their food to get energy and to grow. Living beings grow. All living beings grow up to a certain size. We have earlier studied how a seed develops into a plant and then into a tree. Were you also a baby once? You will soon grow into an adult. Different organisms have different growth patterns. A butterfly lays eggs. These eggs grow into caterpillars. The caterpillars turn into larvae, then young butterflies, which further grow into adult butterflies. This whole process is called a life cycle of the butterfly. On the other hand, non-living things remain the same in size. They do not show any growth. Living beings respire. All living beings breathe air. They have different organs from the same. Animals breathe through nose, gills, skin, blowholes, etc. The oxygen taken in from air helps the body to break down the food to release energy. This process is called respiration. In plants, the exchange of gases takes place in leaves. Oxygen of the air is taken in and carbon dioxide is released during respiration. Plants also release oxygen during photosynthesis. Since the amount of oxygen released during photosynthesis is more as compared to the oxygen utilized during respiration, the plants help in maintaining the oxygen cycle. You will study more about it in the other chapters. Living beings show response to stimuli. All living organisms show movements. Most of their movements are on their own, but some movements are due to some changes taking place in their surroundings. The change in the environment of an organism is called stimulus, and the reaction of that organism to the stimulus is called response. If we accidentally touch a very hot object, our hand is withdrawn immediately. The hotness is the stimulus and our action is the response. Many plants bend towards the source of light. The roots of many plants grow deep into the earth in search of water. Some flowers bloom only at night. These are all responses of plants to external conditions. Living beings excrete. The throwing away of unwanted or harmful waste products from the body is called excretion. Living organisms absorb all the nutrients from their food. The portion of food left after absorption is called waste and has to be thrown away. Animals excrete in the form of feces, urine, and carbon dioxide. Plants also remove the unwanted materials from their body. They shed their dried leaves. The outer covering of the stem on drying is removed as bark. Plants give out water vapor in the form of transpiration. During the process of photosynthesis, oxygen is produced. This is released into the atmosphere. Some other waste produced in plants are stored by them in such a way that they do not cause harm. Some waste are removed as secretions. For example, a rubber plant produces a sap called latex in its stem. Living beings reproduce. All organisms reproduce their own kind so that the continuity of one kind of plant or animal is maintained. Some animals lay eggs. For example, fish, birds, snakes, etc. Some give birth to their young ones like human beings, cat, dogs, etc. Plants reproduce by many methods. Some produce seeds which, on getting favorable conditions, grow into a plant. Some plants can grow from other plant parts as well. You might have seen nodes on sugarcane. Each node has the ability to grow into a new plant. A small cutting of the stem of rose can grow into a complete plant. Have you ever seen plants growing out of buds? These, when fixed in soil, grow into plants. Living beings move. All living organisms show movement. These movements may be from one place to another or movement of a part of the body. Internal movements like transport of water, minerals, and food also take place inside the plant. We have studied about various movements in Chapter 8. We see movements in non-living things as well, but non-living things can't move on their own. They need the help of some outside source of energy which makes them move. Living beings die. After completing their life cycle, all living things die. The lifespan of living things may vary from a few seconds to hundreds of years, but at some point the life cycle ends. Since all living beings reproduce, their type of organisms survive even though the individual may die. There are many non-living things in this world which show a few of the characteristics of living beings, but we call something alive only if shows all the characteristics of the living.